And we're recording. Yep. Here we go. Our guest on this episode of Galactic Radio is an author who's working on his first book entitled, and I'm totally going to screw this up probably, Godslayers, Advocan's War. Is that right, Matthew?
Yeah, Advocan's War.
You can pre-order, like, and follow his book at inkshares.com. Welcome, Mathew Adams. Hello, Matthew.
Hi there.
To start off, why don't you tell us a little bit about your novel? What's it all about?
All right. So basically, it's about a group of individuals who have to go around killing and finding replacements for a pantheon of gods in their magical world. The two main characters are both 16-year-olds raised in our world who are actually from the magical world, who have been hidden away until they were old enough to use their magic. When they get to come back, they find out that maybe one of them might actually be a Godslayer. So they have to go through their journey and find out that there are 6 total Godslayers plus a guide, and all 6 of them have to be alive in order for their magic to work to be able to kill gods.
How did you come up with the idea for this book?
It was actually, I was inspired originally to start writing because I was watching the David Letterman show when I was 12 years old, late at night, and it was the guy who wrote Aragon was being interviewed on there. And I thought he was a little bit overconfident in his presentation, so I thought, as a 12-year-old, because he said that he started writing when he was 13, I'm like, I could come up with a better story, and I'm younger than you. So I challenged myself to come up with a cool story idea, and that's where the idea kind of came from. I always had a really deep fascination with Greek mythology and like that whole grouping of gods, and so I kind of started off with that, and then I was reading Harry Potter at the time, so I kind of took on, I wanted a younger main character, so then I kind of started melding the ideas together, and it sort of turned into this story. And it didn't always start out this way, actually, because the first little bit, it was going to be really focused on him the main character going to school and having friends, and then it slowly started going more the direction I wanted him older. I wanted the whole group to be older. I wanted it to be a little bit more mature. I wanted it more focused on killing the gods and not necessarily ripping off Harry Potter. I mean, a 12-year-old brain, you're going to imitate what you like more so than come up with really solid new ideas. So it's been 15 years in the making of this book.
Wow. Have you written other things in the meantime?
I've come up with a lot of short stories. Me and my friends used to write comics. Like, I have stacks of books of just comic plots, characters, all kinds of stuff that I really do want to get working on, but the book is something that I've been working on the longest, and it's something I just need to get done and need to get out there, because it's actually a series, and I do need to actually finish them faster than the first one.
So do you have everything like mapped out ahead of time?
Yeah, there's some wiggle room in some of the later books, but there's a final destination, and there's a destination at the end of each of the books, and it's kind of how I get there is I leave it a little fluid. I like to free write, so the idea is that I know I have a layout that I write out for each chapter, and it goes, so this is where I start, this is where I need to end, and kind of what happens in the middle, I kind of just let flow, and then I go from there. So sometimes you're writing a part, and you're like, oh, it'd be really cool if that happens, and then you have to realize, oh, well, in order for this to happen, something earlier, so I have to go back and add stuff in to earlier chapters, or say, oh, okay, well, if I'm doing this, I have to remember to eventually come back to this. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot of like taking notes after doing the free writing about stuff I have to go back in and edit. So the editing process is really, really long, and that's my least favorite part, is doing the editing.
So I take I take it that you're a fan of fantasy, right?
Yes.
So what are your like go-to stories, and are you borrowing some ideas? I think you already mentioned Harry Potter a little bit, but are you borrowing other ideas from maybe a book or a novel that you've read in the past?
Well, what's funny is, okay, so I have some friends that when I was younger kind of were inspirations for characters in the book. And what's funny is when I started talking to them about my plot, they actually told me that there's a video game that has a very similar, that has the plot of the game is to actually go and kill a god, and I had never even played it yet. I still haven't played it to this day because I didn't want it to influence me too much. I didn't want to borrow too much from it. But in regards to kind of borrowing ideas, I do take a lot of inspiration from lots of different books. Pretty much everything fantasy I try to take into account, because what I like to do is kind of take it in but then flip it. So the idea is that in, say, the Godslayers, or in Godslayers, there's not so much fate and destiny in it as there is choice. I didn't like the idea that a lot of stuff's going to be predetermined. I wanted it to be a lot based on like the choices that are made. So, for instance, there's no predestined person who's chosen to be a new god. It's entirely up to the Godslayers who the next god is, and you can make a bad decision. You put the wrong person in charge of, say, war, you'll have 1,000 years of horrific wars going on. You put like the wrong person in charge of love and heredity and family, and then you could just see the family life get destroyed in the next 1,000 years. Like it's all about choice, and that's what I think is more interesting than fate. Is that it puts so much more pressure on the characters. Like, yeah, you're in a life and death situation, and really your choices are the things that make it, not necessarily that you're destined to finish this or you're destined to get through this. Because all the Godslayers that have come before this group have failed, and none of them have ever actually been able to replace all the gods.
So, are there some other fantasy novels or books that are like kind of like your go-to reads?
The past little bit, I've been reading a lot of horror, actually. A lot of Stephen King. Kind of getting out of the fantasy element, which is weird. I did pick up Game of Thrones because my brother-in-law is super into it, and he's been telling me to read it, but it's a long read. I also read a lot of Neil Gaiman. I love his stuff.
Yeah, great stuff.
Yeah, the last one I read of his was American Gods, actually. I mean, sticking with the whole gods theme, which I thought was a brilliant book. I loved it.
Are you looking forward to the TV series?
Yes, absolutely.
It sounds like they got the right people in charge of that thing.
Yes.
So you told me that you're a Batman and X-Men fan. So do you think they've done those franchises justice in the last couple movies of each?
If I can talk about X-Men first, because X-Men is the one... Days of Future Past, to me, was awesome. I get shivers thinking about it, because when I saw the trailers, I remember just getting goosebumps. That scene when Xavier's talking to, like, Stewart is talking to McAvoy, and he's like, "We need you to hope again." I can't even handle it. It was such a unique idea going into a franchise and saying, "Hey, I know we screwed up," because the third X-Men movie was kind of a hiccup, and by kind of I mean it was a huge hiccup. And then there was X-Men Origins Wolverine, which also screwed up the series too. And then, but to say, like, we're sorry that this happened, let's fix it, but let's not just reboot the series. Let's actually take what we've already done and find a way to smash them together and then go from there. Like, that's a hugely different take on how to reboot a series. And I found that so interesting and amazing. And when I saw, like, before they even announced it, when they just had the cast list and then they announced that it was going to be called Days of Future Past, my heart stopped. I was like, you're kidding me. They're actually going to meld the two universes together and then build off from there. And it's, like, to me, it was amazing.
I think the universe is a lot more rich now since they did that, right?
Yeah. Sorry?
You agree? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. They did. There's so much more they can do now. There's so much more they can do now. They've already established a lot of things, but because they've also changed things, you can go anywhere. You could do another movie set in the future with, like, Halle Berry as Storm and Famke Janssen back as Jean Grey and James Marsden back as Cyclops. You could have them all come back and have it be slightly different because, you know, stuff's changed since we did fix things in the 70s. So, like, it's very cool that you could go back and do another future movie, and it would be very different, but all the characters would still be there, or some of them could be, and some of them could not be. So, It's to me it was a really cool idea of how to reboot a series without actually just saying, "Okay, screw it, wipe the slate clean and start over again."
So,
So
what do you think of the new DC cinematic universe? And are you excited for the Batman standalone movie?
so my obsession with Batman is actually obsession with Robin. I have been a Robin fan since I was 2 years old. I used to dress up. I dressed up as Robin for Halloween every single year until I was like 16 or 17. He has been. I have a whole wall of just Robin toys, like Birdarangs, Robin posters, like tons of stuff.
Okay? I need to interrupt real quick. Is it just Dick Grayson Robin, or
Yeah,
is it the other Robins too?
all Robin. That being said, Tim Drake is my favorite, followed by Dick, followed by Damian. Damian won me over. Eventually, he won me over. Jason's more interesting now that he's Red Hood. Like him as Robin, I never really kind of bought into. He was the angry middle child, so it wasn't about that. But um, and then even the girls, like Stephanie and Carrie, like even they have a special spot in my heart somewhere because they were Robins at one point. But yeah, it's all Robins. I even have my wall sectioned off into like Dick Grayson is Robin, Dick Grayson is Nightwing, like Red Hood, Tim Drake, and Damian, and the girls. I have a whole wall separated by sections for each of them. But Robin's my big thing. I would love to see Robin come back. That is the only reason I get excited over new Batman movies is for the prospect of having a new Robin, which is why I was so excited that Jenna Malone had this secret character and she had bright red hair, and they were basing it off the Dark Knight Returns series. So I was like, she's going to be Carrie Kelly. I'm going to die. This is going to be amazing. And then it wasn't. So I'm not holding my breath, but I am looking forward to DC Universe, hoping that they do, because they're following some more of the comic material, some of the older stuff, some of the darker stuff, that they do eventually include a Robin. They have the Robin suit. I would just like for there to be a living Robin in the series.
So, since we're talking about DC here, are you a fan of the DC TV universe as well?
You know what? I've actually been watching. I started watching the Legends of Tomorrow. Yeah, it was kind of neat. It was a neat, kind of like it's kind of villains or anti-heroes kind of getting a team and trying to save the world. So it was kind of like that, but it's made for TV, so it feels a little lighter. But I actually really liked it. I didn't really get big into Green Arrow, but I did get more into Flash. So for me, Red Arrow and Kid Flash are what I'm waiting for. They're the things I'm most excited for. I'm a sidekick person, so like Green Arrow's not as interesting to me as Red Arrow or Arsenal on. So it's just, yeah.
That's what's great about comics is everybody has their favorite, and it could be the most obscure thing, or it could be the most mainstream thing in the world too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so is there any technology from those movies or the TV shows that you'd like to see brought into the real world?
Well, actually, one of the things that I like the most, or what I thought was the most interesting aspect of Batman versus Superman, was Batman's suit. The fact that it was like bullet repellent, I would almost call it, not even proof. Like when he got shot in the head, it would just like ricochet off. That's pretty cool. There is a guy on YouTube, actually, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but he actually built a stab-proof, bulletproof bat suit.
Yep, I've seen it. Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
It's so cool. Like, the technology's already there. So, I mean, that's actually really, like, the helmet part that ricochets bullets isn't there yet, but the, like, actual suit's there, which is very, very cool. But that's probably the tech that I would love to see come out of it the most. I mean, yeah, a working Batwing would be awesome. A working Batmobile that is, like, as powerful as the Batmobile is would be awesome too. I mean, in the wrong hands it would be awful, but in the right hands it would be pretty cool.
I think that this world would only be able to have superheroes like Batman. So we almost have to put all of our trust in gadgets, right? If we ever want real world superheroes.
Well, have you ever seen the guy in Germany who builds the like Iron Man? He built an Iron Man gauntlet that has an arm-mounted rocket launcher and it's an electromagnetic pulse blaster on the hand.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's got this, and then there's these guys in Sweden. I think it's either Sweden or Finland that actually developed bulletproof skin. It's a skin graft that's bulletproof. You
Wow.
get shot with it, like the internal damage still happens. You're bleeding inside, but the bullet won't pierce your skin. It's actually the coolest thing. They've tested it on, and the guy who funded the project is the first recipient of the actual bulletproof skin is a thing that exists, and it is so exciting. They're like developing superhero tech right now.
Okay, so you also paint and draw as well. What type and style of art do you create?
Right now with my painting, I've been focusing a lot on realism or trying to do portraits. So the last one I did was how do you pronounce his name? It's the wolf from the Neverending Story. So I did him, and then before that, I just did a present for my mom, and it was just an otter floating in water. Like, I'm trying to get more into the realism because a lot of the stuff that I draw is just kind of out of my own head. It's drawing superheroes or drawing like comic book art. But recently, the thing I've been working on is actually art for the book. Because in the book, in order to get access to your magic that would make you withstand the punch of a god or be able to actually kill one, you have a mark, and it's a tattoo that goes from the top of your shoulder all the way down to the bottom of your hand. So I've been designing that, and with the sale of the first book, I'm actually going to get that tattoo tattooed on me. So I'm going to have the full sleeve tattoo from the book.
That is awesome. And you,
So, yeah.
you told me that you have an Instagram account. Do you show off your artwork on your Instagram account?
Not as much as I should, but I do have I do post pictures of what I've been working on my Instagram. Yes, it's at Noble Otter.
And you do cosplay as well. So who or what have you dressed up in, or who do you like to dress up in cosplay?
No shocker, but Robin.
I didn't even have to ask.
Well, I actually have. So I have the Birdarangs, like Birdarang toys, but I built an entire leather Robin costume. So it's like kind of building it like kind of taking into account like the X-Men style costume, but applying it to Robin. So I have that. The only thing that's not leather is the cape, because I would strangle. I'd get strangled. But the funny story is, I went to a Comic-Con in that costume, and somebody walked up to get in line behind me, and as I turned around, they looked at me and went, "Poor choice." And I was like, "Are you kidding me? This costume took hours and hours to make. This is an awesome costume." But yeah, it's that's probably one of the ones I wear. I've broken it out a couple of times. I've had to repair it a bunch of times because the leather, it's mostly fake leather, because real leather is expensive. So there's like a lot of faux leather parts, like a lot of the legs and the body parts are made out of like faux leather. So they rip really easily. So I've got a lot of hair from doing poses and whatnot. So it's a lot of repair. So it's been well loved.
If you have to repair it too much, then you turn it into some kind of like steampunk thing, right?
Well, that, or I'm thinking about redoing it. I actually want to do a like motorcycle kind of punk inspired Nightwing costume.
That would be pretty funny, or pretty great, pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So, anything else that we haven't covered yet that you want to talk about?
Well, with the Inkshares, what I'm in right now is I'm in a contest. I'm in the Geek and Sundry contest for publishing. So basically, they're counting the pre-orders, and I have about 80 days left. So if I gain enough pre-orders that I place in the top 3 spots, my book will actually get published. Right now,
Nice.
It's just the publishing phase. If I win first place, I believe there's a marketing like package they give you where they'll help promote the book and get you published and get you out there. So obviously I want to win, but if I even beat the threshold of which is 250, I would get published one way or like regardless of whether or not I place in the top 3. So right now the biggest goal is that I would like people to like and follow the book if they're interested in it, or message me if they have comments, questions, or anything like that. But the biggest thing right now is I got to sell the pre-orders. As I go through at the time, I will be posting more snippets. Right now, the entire first chapter is available on Inkshares for reading, so people can get a good taste of it. and I'm more than happy to talk about it. It's actually one of the most exciting things. There's only been two people that have read the whole book, and it is so enjoyable to actually talk to somebody who's read it and have a conversation about the characters that exist in my mind, because up until now, the only people I can talk to about it are me. Like, I can't, it's only in my head, but with other people reading it, I can talk to other people about it. It's actually probably one of the most exciting things about putting it out there is that you get to talk to other people about the things that live in your head.
Yep.
So
Inkseries.com, and then they search for what?
Godslayers, Advocan's War.
Okay, and we'll put the link in the show notes to this podcast that people can just click on, and they'll take it right. They'll take them, or they will take you, or whatever. They'll go right there to the page. So, where can people find you elsewhere? Are you on? You said that you're on Instagram. Where can people find you there?
Yeah, so Instagram is Noble Otter, basically like as in a noble knight, and otter as in the animal. That's probably the best place to get me. I don't really have Twitter, unfortunately. It's never been my thing, but Instagram is something I'm on pretty regularly. So,
all right, Mathew Adams, thank you for coming on with us today.
Thanks for having me, David.
All right, and that's it. That's all.